Hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of the Coaches Club podcast, brought to you by halftimeclubber.com. My name is Amanze. Yes, it's not Danny Cook this time, and I'm pleased to bring to you a fantastic episode with a good friend of mine, someone I know very, very well. I'm looking forward to talking to. That's Danny Cook. But before we begin, you catch up on all of our previous episodes on iTunes or on our new website now, which is halftimeclubber.com. So, hello, Danny.
Hello, Rob. You okay?
I'm good, thank you, sir. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. Missing football.
Likewise. I hope this isn't too strange for you because you're usually on the other side of the chair, per se, anchoring and doing a great job of interviewing so many different guests within the grassroots football fraternity. So I won't make you feel any comfortable or awkward here, but very looking forward to hearing a little bit more about your coaching story, really, and what brought you to coach juncture of your coaching career.
Thank you. No, it certainly feels a little bit different being this side of the mic. Certainly feel a little bit more in the hot seat, and I'm looking forward to a grilling from you. So it'll be good.
Won't be imagine me and you in the pub having a drink and a meal and having a bit of a chat, but not people listen to us. That's the only difference right now.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Bring it on.
Thank you. So I think the best way to really start this, and how I would like to kick things off, per se, just to ask you really, what got you involved in grassroots football coaching?
Yeah, great question. So my sort of journey began at the end of my youth playing. So I was in, I believe, year 7 at the time. So I think I was, 12 years old? 12, around that sort of age, 12, 13. And at the time, I had an illness. It was luckily not too serious, but it stopped me from doing as much sport as I would like to have done. So just to give a bit of context, prior to that, I would be doing athletics. I would be doing lots and lots of football training, pretty much doing something every evening, all the weekends. I was very active, and I was very fortunate, really, that my family sort of gave me the opportunity to do that. So I was quite lucky in that sense. Yeah, so I got to around, year 7. I don't really know how it happened, but I just had this sort of illness where it sounds silly, but you just felt tired. You felt tired all the time. So I was very fatigued. To some people, it might sound like a fantastic thing that you get to sleep all day or in your lessons. I was definitely caught napping a few times, but it's for someone that's so sporty as me, it wasn't ideal, and it definitely was a hard place for me. So during that time, I was kind of at a crossroads, I guess, as to where I go. Do I continue playing football when I get better, or do I not? So I believe it was around sort of the year 8 stage, so sort of one schooling year after. The school were really good with me at the time anyway, as I said, like going to sleep in lessons and missing a lot of school, but still getting by. Sort of year 8, I came back, luckily, to sort of full fitness, full health, and they had like a sports leadership program at the school. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name. I think it was just Sports Leaders. Sports Leaders UK or something, and it was like a mini qualification. You'd get a bronze, which I think was like 25 hours of coaching or voluntary work. Silver was like 75, and I think gold was like 150. So anyway, as part of this scheme, I got into coaching, really, in the sense that I started coaching my own school year's team. So I was in year 8. Yeah, so I was in year 8. It was an interesting experience, and I think certainly sort of planted the seed for what was to come. But you got to picture this. I was year 8. I was 13, I think, but I'm a small blonde-haired kid with a high-pitched voice, going into a bit of coaching his schoolmates, teammates, whatever it may be, and it was so much fun. Now, thankfully, the PE teacher at the time, he was very good in that sense that he spotted that was something I was interested in anyway, and sort of gave me sort of free reins to take match days. Unfortunately, we didn't really have much training opportunities, which on reflection, don't really know why. But I took the boys for match days, and it was great fun doing all the team talks, managing the team, setting them up. Yeah, it was a lot of fun and eye-opening experience. We lost a lot of games, conceded a lot of goals, but we had a good laugh. And I guess the proudest achievement from that sense would be when we actually finally won a game, which for those who are unfamiliar with the schooling system that was implemented there, which was more of like a primary, middle, and a high school system.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't know if that was something you're, Rob, a primary, middle school, and high school system at all.
No. I mean, I don't know if that's because of the counties or we're different with London, but for us as primary and secondary, there isn't really a high school middle year or junior year per se. But okay, so that was what you were working with in regards to your school system.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I say this is because we were middle school. We were the top year group in middle school.
Okay.
So we was literally going to go into high school the following year. Now, because of where our school was and where the high school was, we were one of the catchment schools. So what made it quite funny that one game we did win, it was actually against the other school that was the catchment for the high school. So we, in essence, we kind of won against ourselves, which became evident in our high school years, because I don't think we won any, if many, games as a year group. So yeah, I finished my middle school management career with a win. So I left that role on a high note, that's for certain. But just going all the way back, really, I guess one of the earliest sort of seeds in which this sort of leadership element was planted was during primary school, when I want to say like year 3, year 4.
Hey, so about 6 or 7.
Yeah. Now,
Okay.
I didn't know this was something that I would like to pursue as a career, but I knew it was something that I loved and I got a lot of joy out of doing. And that was because it sounds weird, but the school at the time, I think we had a music teacher. She was, I think, ill or off, and for whatever reason they didn't get a substitute teacher in. So they they sent us, like our class. I mean, it was only a small class. I think there was only like 15 people in a class. They sent us out to go and help with younger year groups with their lessons and be like a teaching assistant for that 1 hour, which we would have music for. And I have to say, I absolutely loved that. That was so much fun. I can't remember necessarily what we did from sort of lesson to lesson, but it was so much fun just interacting and working and helping those younger kids.
Hold on a second there. So you were saying that age of 6 or 7, you were helping. What age group was it? Was it like reception year or year 1?
Sorry, I didn't specify. Yeah, it was like reception. I think the highest we went would have been like year 1. Now, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 occasions, and maybe I'm pushing the boat because my memory is terrible, but I think there was the odd occasion where we did some kind of sports leadership stuff, maybe not tied into this music teacher, maybe a wider school program, but there was definitely elements of leadership activities that I particularly enjoyed during sort of my early schooling days, and especially, as I say, like just helping people and developing them. I think I really took a shine into.
Okay, I think what stands out to me there quite clearly, I don't know if this is something that you've thought of, is that you've always had maybe an innate will to develop and work with others, a certain level of maturity, because I'm not sure many other 6 or 7-year-olds have the patience to sit down and speak to a younger person and talk them through something. So That's really interesting, because I think with coaching particularly, it's quite inherent in you. There's something people like to do, but maybe it gets developed over time. But it seems if you were a bit of a prodigy of sorts. At the age of 6 or 7, you're already masterminding your way of communication and man management, and developing others and understanding their needs and tailoring your responses. So that's really insightful and very, very interesting.
No problem. Just to be clear, obviously, I'm not, when I was 6 or 7, I wasn't coming up with my system to play or my philosophy. I could probably be lucky if I spelt those words correctly by that point.
Well, at the start, I just got the image of a head of a 6-year-old Danny Cook running around the classroom and sorting out everyone's problems. It's amazing. So touching that a little bit more on the leadership course that you mentioned different tier groups. Did you go for the silver or the gold, or did you go for the bronze? Well, how many hours did you do at that age? Because you're only 13, I think you mentioned, when you were doing it. How many hours did you do coaching at that time?
Yeah, so I was really lucky because I did obviously the stuff with the school team, and as I say, the boys were really good with me actually, because I'm sure some people have probably been in that environment where you're almost seen as like a peer or as a mate. So they took to me really well. Whether they like me or not, I don't know. It's a different matter. But and likewise, if they thought I was any good, again, probably not. But to be fair to them, they respected me. They gave me the opportunity to experiment. Like I say, one of the memories, and I cannot remember why, and I can't remember what I put, but I think for one of those games, I remember printing out a sheet of paper that had like individual notes, individual slips. And I remember cutting them out and giving them to the players before the game. And I don't know why. Looking back, I really don't know why. That sounds a really silly thing for a 13-year-old boy to do. But I don't know. Like, I think that curiosity and creativity, I think I wanted to try new things even early doors when it came to leadership.
Yeah, that's I think quite clear really from that. So these slips, you're saying that you would just give people like position that I know a long time ago now, but was it stuff like what you need to work on, or what the player needs to do in the game, or just reinforcing what they were doing, or was this general stuff that you thought would be helpful to each player?
I mean, I wish I could say it was system to play and individual tactical insight. Probably not. I will endeavour to find them somewhere if there's a copy. But no, I mean, it was more, from what I can remember, it was probably more sort of attempting to be motivational, attempting to reinforce in a positive way what qualities they bring to the team and how valuable they are, really. Which again sounds silly in a schooling environment where, not being funny, we got hammered quite a few games, but it was a good laugh.
Yeah, I also think it's the thought process, isn't it? It's the understanding and the rationale, which you explained quite clearly right now, behind why you were doing that, which I think will be the key takeaway here. The results are what they are, but it's the thought and the understanding behind it. So that's really good to hear. So you explained that at a very young age you were kind of sadly through illness, but it gave you the opportunity to experiment and test out working as a coach or assistant. You were a school teacher, and you were getting an idea of working with players, and you were leading on match days. On the match days, because I can imagine it's quite a tense environment, were you there on your own, or did you have your coach work alongside you and you were assisting him or her?
So match days was quite interesting because from what I can remember, it was very much I did the team talk, so I set the team up. I had a whiteboard, portable whiteboard. I know. A Poundland special, I think, or a WH Smith's back in the day. It was only a small little thing, A4 size, with my setup on there. But so the teacher, he was instrumental in this because he empowered me, but he essentially just ref the games. I think he oversaw maybe what I did, but didn't really take in much off me. I think he originally, like, the image on my Instagram that showed the team sheet. Now, he would do a sort of team sheet for all teams across the school, and we would have a wall in the school where you'd obviously go and check where what the details are for the games. And on the team sheet, obviously gives you the venue, the meeting time, and then on all of his ones, he had sort of a formation or a starting lineup, whether it be basketball or football. And the football one, and I said to you, it was really funny because the football one was a 3-5-2 setup. Now, having played, for any players listening in who have been coached by me over the past 2 years will know that a 3-5-2 is like my go-to at the moment. But funnily enough, back then, the year before, I had the opportunity to play in that preset 3-5-2 that the teacher had set up, and I was the right centre back. I have to tell you honestly, I absolutely hated it because I had no idea what I was doing. I was one of the quickest players. Aerial was one of the worst players. There's no denying that, and I still am today. So I was just like, why am I the right centre back? I could not overlook the fact that I shouldn't have been a wing back or a winger. So what was quite funny about that image, and going back to your question, was the fact that actually back then I didn't play a 3-5-2. I wish I could say I did, and it's a philosophical inspiration that I've had since day one, but I'm not. I'm pretty sure back then it was probably a 4-4-2 classic.
It's flexible. It can move. It can move. So your teacher, and just correct me if I'm wrong, gave you quite a responsibility then on the match day, as he said to you, you always hit the team, our referee. So you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but my guess was that quite difficult for you at that young age to have that much responsibility? What did you do as a coach to kind of make sure that you got the players on your side, that you were talking the way that it was coherent to them? Or were you not able to do that? Was it quite difficult for you? Did you just kind of let them do what they wanted and you just enjoyed it from the side? What did you do? Can you remember?
Again, I guess this kind of comes back to my situation at that time in terms of in the school. So what I haven't mentioned so far is when I came back in year 8, I didn't want to sit on my hands and do nothing. Like, I had ground to catch up on. And although when you look back at your schooling years, there's probably more important years in terms of if you missed, you could be qualifications behind or exams behind. I was quite lucky in that sense that there wasn't much really. It was just sort of a level of education, and in terms of my football, a level of physicality and technical ability that I sadly missed out on for that year, and that kind of forced me out of the game in that sense. When I did come back, I wanted to do everything I could, and we had various different roles around the school, not just obviously the sports leadership. So I think there was stuff like school receptionist, school council, house captain. So I was really lucky in that sense, and looking back, I'm kind of questioning why I was trusted with so many sort of opportunities to go and showcase this leadership, bearing in mind that the year before I pretty much missed 20%, 30% of schooling officially, and then on top of that probably was asleep for 20%, a further 20% of that as well. So wow. I was quite lucky, as I say. Like, I think the fact that I was in charge of the school council at the time, which was a totally different topic, but just as important. So I think I was really focused on the time I had, whatever time I had, I was focused on whatever I was doing. So yeah, it was a really important sort of 2-year period for me, I think that, and I think that has shaped what I am today off the back of that, and will continue to do so, of course. But I think just having a little setback and then coming back and not just wanting to sit back and I'm back to normal now, sit down, stay comfy. I wanted to go on the attack and, as I say, make up for lost time.
Excellent. It seems as though even though you have to deal with a very difficult situation at such a young age with the illness, it feels as if you want to do your best to make up for lost time when you were back the following year and take on as much responsibility as possible, which I think has probably affected you more than just your coach and, as you mentioned, maybe just your attitude to work ethic as well. Like I sense that there was a feeling of, you said to yourself, be under the attack there, go forward and move forward. So at a very young age, you were doing things that were probably maybe something that you would have maybe thought you would have done a year before, but now you're in that situation, you were like, okay, let's do it, let's go with it. That seemed fair, as if you had to kind of catch up and really focus then on your skills.
Yeah, 100%. That schooling year was essentially my year of growth, and I don't know. I'd like to think I'd get a year like that again, but I think that was so niche and unique in terms of the development, where I came from and where I ended up was that for me on a personal level was just fantastic. But as I say, I couldn't have done that element, and I wouldn't have had that sort of response had it not been for those people around me, especially teachers, obviously friends supporting me, and then obviously most importantly family being there, whether that's my brother, my mother or my father, and my grandparents as well. So I chucked them all in there, giving them all a shout out. But no, they all really helped me, so there's no denying that.
Okay.
But yeah, sorry, just to go back to answering your question originally, I think because I did those other roles, and I think because luckily the boys, they got on well with me and they gave me that opportunity, we didn't really have any issues in terms of me delivering stuff, or of course there may be confusion as to points I make, or substitutions or tactical decisions, but at the end of the day, I think they could see it was not so much, he's trying to be, he's coach, he's got no idea. Like, I think they kind of saw it as, I was a person and I was just trying to help them.
I see. Okay. Which I think can be difficult. That age, really, puberty and testosterone's kicking in. No one wants to be told by their peers what to do. So I can imagine at that age you were probably a little bit maybe wary of what to say, but because your status within the school at that time and you'd earning people's respect, that it may have an effect on what you go on to see next. Let's talk a little bit more then about what happens next after this. So you get your taste of coaching at a very young age, but you're not really coaching. You mentioned that you were unable, fortunately, at that time within the school to do training sessions. So specifically working more on the match days. After that, is there a period of time then when you start to think, teenage years, that you might want to go to coaching? Is there anything else you do after this to kind of enable that, or is there a bit of a gap from this period onwards regarding your coaching journey?
So this is where it gets a little bit interesting, really, because I've given you sort of a context of a schooling environment so far, but as I mentioned with the sports leadership qualification, in order for me to hit my 150 hours, I'd need to be doing a lot of hours outside of school.
So you went for the gold one then? You went for the full?
Yeah, of course. I also coached other teams at the school as well for little tournaments. So like they would have like a 7-a-side tournament for the year sixes. Go and coach them. I'd love it. I'd be there. Fantastic. I've got a team. The teacher's got another team, and it was a good laugh. And then other occasions, we were speaking about this one not so long ago, actually, basketball as well. We went to a basketball tournament. Again, knew nothing about basketball back then anyway, so it was quite fun doing that. But I've not really touched on it so far, but a real important element in sort of my coaching journey so far is a club, local club called Waveney FC, Waveney Youth. They, at the same time of me going for this award, I used to play for them, and I think I still at that time played occasionally when I wasn't ill. I was still sort of on their team, on their books, and my coaches there, they were fantastic because they gave me the opportunity to go and try a bit of leadership, whether it be a little bit of reffing in the sessions, a little bit of coaching, and ultimately I really got, I guess, my first breakthrough there was with I think it was their under nines or under eights player development centre. So I would just assist. They had a couple of coaches there. One of those used to coach a team at my age group, and he invited myself and one of my teammates along to go and do some coaching. Initially, obviously, those sort of first 6 sessions was more a case of just watching, learning, helping, all stuff that was, is obviously very comfortable and very good. And then I think, maybe 2 months in, we were set the task, me and my teammate, to put on a session. So we did.
Okay.
And you know what? It really disappoints me that I can't remember, or I can't seem to find anything about that session. All I've got, the original sort of letter saying we're going to do a session on this day. I remember we did a session for that. It went well. We stayed there, and then I guess I really progressed from that into Saturday Football Club. What I mean by that is every Saturday they had a big football club that anyone could go to. It was like 2 hours of football fun. So you would put on a session, a fun session. It could be with kids that play at the club for various teams. It could be kids that play at other clubs. It could be kids that don't play for any teams at all. Basically, it was huge. It was so huge. They had so many, I want to say like 20, 30 kids maybe per age group. And that's on boys and girls side. Yeah, it's such a huge setup down there. And looking back, that's probably why that club is so big. Not only the location, but they've got 5 teams per age group. And that's because they're recruiting so many from a Saturday Football Club, because all the kids there are there. So yeah, anyway, I was coaching down there. I was helping one of the coaches, and distinctly what I remember is he set up, and you've got to remember back then we didn't really have, the goals weren't that portable, if you get me. Like, they were still, they had wheels, but they were a nightmare to push, not like the newer ones. So we had 2 11-a-side goals. He set up 2 11-a-side goals back to back, and we did a back-to-back match, and it was one of the weirdest things I think I'd ever seen, really. Bearing in mind, obviously, I played a bit. I'd never really played a game where it was back to back, and I just sort of plucked his brains. Well, why was we doing that kind of thing? And I think the best bit about being a coach, or one of the characteristics you need, is you need to be able to steal sessions and steal ideas, and obviously put your own twist on things. And that's the session I definitely took away, because I just couldn't believe it. I've maybe seen it once or twice since, but given how much I'd played up to that point, I'd played at a reasonable level in that area. I'd never seen anything like it, and I just was so put back by the creativity of it. So yeah, I did a couple of sessions there, worked with a variety of age groups, really, as I say, boys and girls. The one thing I absolutely loved it. It was, every Saturday you'd go there, and you knew you had kids, and you knew it was going to be fun, and that whole atmosphere was fantastic, and all the other coaches and the staff were brilliant there. The one thing I didn't particularly look forward to on a Saturday morning was having to put up the goals. Now, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, so
I said so. This is going to go next. This is a tough bit, right?
Yeah, you got to bear in mind, like I've said before, I'm this small, skinny, blonde kid with a high pitched voice, who, can't lift weights to save his life, really. So you're then asking him to carry some of these. I mean, to be honest, like 7-a-side goals, like they were so heavy back then. For me, it felt so heavy. It was good because it helped improve my strength and built up some muscles and all that. But I tell you what, like that was certainly the point you didn't really enjoy, having to lug these goals. They were so far. It's like, yeah, that bit was a bit that I don't particularly miss. But it was a rite of passage, I guess, in that sense.
As I say that's the very early beginnings, the humble beginnings of a grassroots football coach, is assembling the goal and moving them around the pitch every morning.
Yeah, yeah. Those that would put the goals up, and I was one of them. You know, we were quite young guys, so quite a few of them were coaching together. They had their own sort of group. Then there was just odd people like me work with a different coach completely. Yeah, it was mostly young guys just carrying these goals, and yeah, like I'm pleased I've kind of outgrown that because that's something I don't miss. But you know what? It made the actual session a bit more enjoyable. Yeah, just knowing that once you're actually ready to go, you was like so relieved. You didn't want it to end. You literally didn't want it to end because you knew you had to put the goals away after. But
not as the session quality, it's up to goals.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess stepping block for me, because yeah, not only did I do that, you know, once I got to, I think I remember age of 14, I think I then sort of went to take my referees course, which is where this story kind of takes a slight detour, I guess, really. The reason why I got into refereeing was because my neighbour, who's sadly passed away, he was, you know, very big in our local refereeing society, and I mean he refereed for, you know, years and years. He was so experienced and such a well-known figure within local football anyway. So yeah, I thought, you know, around those school, sort of jumping back a bit, you know, when I couldn't really play, when I rediscovered that, you know, when I returned back to my team at Waveney, that I wasn't really good enough to cement a place in a side anymore, which ultimately saw my playing minutes decline, understandably so, as, you know, it gets more competitive as you get older. At which point I kind of, you know, spoke with my parents, as like, as much as I enjoy playing, I don't enjoy not playing, and you know, I don't enjoy having to go on long journeys just to play 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And for me, I felt like there was a more beneficial thing for me to do, and that was to get into the coaching, which has obviously brought us onto that pathway with the PDC and the Saturday Football Club. But also at the time I was thinking, having spoke to my neighbour, what about refereeing? So I took the course, thankfully passed first time. Very, very nervous on that course, I'm not going to lie. I think there was just so much you needed to know at the time as a young boy. It's going to be interesting to see it put into practice. So yeah, I finished the course, continued doing coaching on the side. So I would still do my coaching Saturday mornings. As I went into like high school, I'd still coach Saturday mornings, but then my focus was more on my refereeing, and I refereed their local youth league, really well run league out there, really well run, and I refereed on that for a good number of years, predominantly reffing. So compared to, obviously, Rob, you know, with the league we're in with the youth leagues in London that are more sort of centralised refereeing appointments. The leagues around there, because I think it was a little bit further apart and a little bit wider, the appointments were made by the home clubs. There was a little bit more trust and emphasis on the home clubs finding a match official. So I would get a nice local game down at Waveney on a Sunday morning and a Sunday afternoon as well. And yeah, I just sort of did that, loved that, worked through a number of different age groups, different, obviously both genders, different formats, 7v7, 9v9, 11v11, worked my way up in terms of that side. Used to referee at some of the academy games down at Ipswich. Also, obviously, after I left there, went on to do a couple games with Arsenal, Millwall as well, another one. So I covered quite a bit of ground in terms of my refereeing, and I was quite lucky because parents, my grandparents, and they say they were really supportive. But even my mentors at the time, in the refereeing sense, they gave me a lot of feedback. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I think probably one of the biggest blunders I think I've ever done, Rob. It was about midway through a second half of the game. Now, I was being watched for this game as well by one of my mentors. I don't know what happened. I think we stopped it because I stopped my watch because of the kid tying their laces or something like that. And I totally forgot to restart it. Completely forgot to restart it. So there we are, 10 minutes on. I'm thinking, and I check my watches quite a bit anyway. I'm thinking, what's on here? Like, it's stopped. Like, so then I'm like, oh my God, what? I've just noticed it's been stopped, and I know I've not looked at that watch for a little while. So I'm now thinking, how long? Like, how long has it been, and how long have we got left? Just as someone's now asking, how long's left? I'm like, oh my word. So now I'm having to look at my other watch, which, again, this is a tip for anyone that does want to do any refereeing or anything like that. Your second watch is meant to be your, another stopwatch as well. I had it on, I guess, normal time. So it would say the time was, I don't know, 12:47. So at which point then I'm now suddenly thinking, right now I've got to work out how far into this game I actually am. Quick maths. I mean, I put it this way, I definitely cocked that one up. And I think from memory, I think my mentor said I finished the game like 5-10 minutes early, and he was there, and like I was like, well, because he was like, what is it already over? How long do you play? I said, we play this. And he was like, like you've still got 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes sort of thing. To which point I'm like, so I'm like, well, what do we do? And thankfully, and this is the thing. This is, I think, a real big lesson I learned from that. You own the mistake. And I feel like this could be transferred over to coaching as well. But you own the mistake. I could have probably, it wouldn't have gone down well, but I could have, if I wanted to, walk off and just sort of say enough's enough. That's it. Goodbye. Thankfully, my mentor was there, and he picked up on how long it actually was cut short by, and sort of encouraged me to go back out onto the pitch and to bring the teams back and go again, as in finish off the game, which logically makes sense. But you got to keep in mind, at that time I was, I think, as I said, blonde, skinny, short boy that was, I think, 15, 16 maybe when this happened, reffing teams of players that were 2 years younger than me, because that was always the guidance you had. When you was up to 16, you had a year gap. So, I mean, that took, a lot of, looking back, that took a lot of confidence really to go back out and have to do that. I'd see some of the kids in school, or knew of some of the kids from coaching in middle school and all that kind of thing. So it was hard. It was hard to go out and do that, but you had to really.
Obviously, it's always key, that scenario, but as you quite rightly said, I can imagine just the lack of I guess lack of self-relief that someone might have that situation, because they know they've got to get a rollicking, potentially, or some criticism for this. So owning your mistake and dealing with it sometimes gets better response. Sometimes because people are like, oh, okay, that's cool, how are we going to deal with it? And then you said you went back in to finish the game, which is a great example of, my mistake, let's finish the game, that's it, it's over and done with, rather than being abrupt, let's end it 10 minutes early, like you said, some people have done as well. So, that's a really good point there. I agree with that.
Now, there's no denying. I mean, off the back of that game, I distinctly remember I came home, I was so upset because I knew I dropped an absolute clanger, really. Look, in the grand scheme of things, it weren't the World Cup final. It was like an under-14s game. It was not even a cup final or anything like that. It was just a league game between two teams, probably from what I can remember was like mid-table. So it wasn't even a team could get promoted or relegated.
Yeah.
I think you just know when you've made a mistake, you've made a mistake. And I did that day. There's no denying that.
because accountability there, Danny. So I'm listening to what you're saying right now, and I'm really painting this picture in my head where you're still a teenager, you're still relatively young, you're starting to subside and reduce your amount of playing time because you feel as if minutes you're getting at Waverley are going to be less because of that year that you've missed physically and, I say technically mentioned, of development. So you're focusing now on other areas. So you're now focusing much more on coaching, and also the issue of referees come in where you're now taking that upon yourself as something you want to do. You as a person here, are you missing the playing side of things because you are really, really young, or are you thinking to yourself, right, this is now maybe a path I want to focus down and I can maybe become the best football coach I can be, or the best referee I can be, or are you so harboring thoughts to play football at this time as well?
Good question. And again, still to this day, I think for those that have played the game and have had some involvement in the game, I think you do miss playing it. There's no denying that. There was definitely elements of missing to play, but I would say that's more maybe now now rather than back then. I think for me the big point was, obviously we're inside the London bubble, but the sheer travel for a game to play away. We could play some county games, and the town I lived in, the position where that town was, it was like at the real top end of the county. So to go from sort of top end of Suffolk, bottom of Norfolk, to sort of a game that could be in Ipswich, maybe, that would be fine. That'd be good if you knew, it was a journey worthwhile, or if it was a game that you was good, looking forward to being a part of. But I think to go all that way to play 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that didn't really appeal to me, just purely because I knew deep down that I wasn't good enough anyway. So it wasn't a case of bad thoughts towards the coaches or anything like that. It was more a case of this is a wake up call that I need, that playing football as much as it's every lad's dream is not is not going to happen. There's no way it can happen, really. So I decided to go down this other path, as I said. It again, I was probably really fortunate in the reffing sense that, like with the coaching at the school, the adults that I interacted with and worked with, they were actually really good to me. I know there's a lot of stigma around that time potentially, about it being sort of reffing being old men, coaching being old men, and not so much sort of young blood coming in, but they were really welcoming to me, and they shared their knowledge. They helped me out in both sides, coaching and reffing. Yeah, I think had it not been for that, I think I'd be really gutted, because I would have, having been on that journey, I experienced some fantastic moments. In my playing days, we had our local league. We had a couple of cup finals. We never won.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I guess to really complete that circle was the opportunity to go out and to then go and ref a cup final that a couple of years ago I was actually playing in. And the good thing about that was I knew no matter what, no matter the score, I won.
Of course, yeah, you're involved in your piece of the showcase world finals. You'll make sure that game goes along well with no issues, no incidents. So yeah, quite a lot of responsibility. It's still at a young age, which I keep mentioning.
And like I say, I think it was. I was very lucky with the environment I was sort of brought up around, because people were willing to empower me, and that say, like, they could have quite easily have said no, or they could have belittled me or tried to force me out of the game early doors. But I, because of their support and because of their influence, I'm still in it now.
On that point, Danny, were there any particular mentors that you had on the refereeing and coaching side? And if there were,
what did you learn from them regarding your coaching and refereeing at that time?
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, this is going to be really hard because I've had so many from the refereeing side. I had I guess two or three mentors throughout my time in that area. You know, at various spells, one would be more active than another, but I think that was good. I think that was healthy because you got differences of opinion, differences of point of view, and that needed to happen because they would spot something maybe someone else wouldn't spot, and it was good to get ideas and bounce ideas off other mentors. So from a refereeing sense, it was more. I guess it's hard really to pinpoint certain things to certain mentors because it's a little bit wider scoped.
Okay.
Whereas I think with my coaching, so a couple of the coaches I got a little bit of mentorship off of were coaches that used to run a FA skills program. Basically, it was free football for I think between 5 and 11-year-olds, boys and girls. Free fun football. And anyway, the couple of the coaches there, they were real top coaches, and they'd all played for my local club, Lowestoft. They played at a decent level. They played at the FA Vars final, which was played at Wembley, sort of a couple of years prior to that, really. And they were at the end or had finished their playing careers anyway, so they were in their early sort of coaching careers by this point. And they took me under their wing there. I did. I helped with their Lowestoft centre. So they would have sessions on like a Monday night, and I'd go and help there every Monday night for a good, I want to say, year and a half maybe. And that was really good. I'd go down there. I'd watch what they do, help what they do as well, assist where needed. And a lot of those coaches, no, in fact, all of those coaches from memory are now in good coaching positions. So two of the coaches, one called Jamie Godbolt, he now manages Lowestoft.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big step from coaching to working there and then eventually becoming manager. So that's a fantastic journey for him as well. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm skipping out a lot of his steps. He did a lot. He went to a lot of clubs before that, but that, that's where he is now. He's got Andy Reynolds with him as well. He used to be Lowestoft's goalkeeper. He used to coach at FA Skills, and now he's coaching there. There's a guy called Matty Potter. I think he's at Galston now, which is another club like Lowestoft, but a little bit further down. I think he's their first team manager there, or has been anyway. And there was a lady called Paige, I think, and last name was Shotton, and she one of the coaches with the Ipswich women's side that did really well, and obviously they got that massive cup game against Man City earlier on in this year or this season even. So it's quite interesting really, because I look back at all of those coaches and being in that environment, and I picked up lots of little things from them. So for example, Matty, I remember distinctly, as well as this sort of Monday night sessions, we would have holiday courses or holiday days, I guess, when obviously school holidays were in. And I remember distinctly with him, his focus was a lot around the futsal stuff, a lot around. He's the first person I think I've ever seen use music during a session, or at the start of a session, when like kids are arriving and they're playing 3v3s. Now it's not just sort of any old music; it's music that has like a high tempo or a high intensity. And the idea is that it gets the blood pumping, it gets the high beat gets the players moving quicker. So it was interesting. There was little things like that really, and just watching their delivery and setting. The big one they did there, and the big thing I learned from there was they set players individual challenges a lot. So they would do a classic coaching drive by where they pull a player out and just sort of say, what did you do there? How did you do that? What could you do better? And then sort of just setting little challenges. Okay, so for the next 2 minutes, can you try and do this for me? So yeah, that was really good. I've rambled on a lot there. I don't know where. I think the question was mentors, wasn't it? But there were so many influences, I guess.
You should cover. You mentioned three particularly. One who's manager now of Lowestoft, one that's working at Golston you mentioned, and someone else at Ipswich. So you covered, the question and answer there, which is brilliant. And it's always good to hear from a fellow coach or someone within the industry of the little tidbits they mentioned. So the guy discovery, giving someone an option to look back and reflect on what they've done or many challenges. It's always fun to learn that for the first time from someone for watching them. I'm also quite impressed that you did the FA skills you mentioned, which I think is another way of learning it at the very youngest level or at the early stages where it's not tactics or formation, just more about putting the session together and making it enjoyable and fun. And you learn that way of what people can pick up on, with the buzzes, what didn't go so well, without having that pressure of 3 points or a point from a game. So that's brilliant that all worked there within two different clubs, Waverley and also with Lowestoft.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of part one of our fabulous podcast that we're doing with Danny Cook. I would like to mention that we've covered quite a lot of Danny's, I guess, early humble beginnings as a football coach. And in part two, we're going to focus a little bit more on present day and what he's doing right now with a club called Kindred Football Club. As mentioned at the start of the podcast, you can catch up on all of our content just by looking at our website, which is halftimecuppa.com, or via iTunes by searching Halftime Cuppa. Okay, speak to you soon, and I hope you're looking forward to part two.